There you go.
Got it.
Yeah.
And I think the lesson learned for all of us is like we may have thought that our various followings on various platforms, and we really don't own those. Those aren't our assets. They're temporary and fleeting. What we need is those connections with the people through whatever channel it is. Part of my plan for 2024 is to broaden, my participation on some of these other channels that are rising and falling. There was that time period about halfway through the year where everybody was signing up on the latest.
Yeah.
I'm on the Buzzbee. I'm on the, Orcaball and
Blue Sky.
Orcaball.
Yeah. And like Blue Sky, perfect example. That to me, from a technical point of view, that one had the most promise in the structure of it, and it's just not catching on. The
Brinkaball was good though.
What's that?
Brinkaball was good though while it lasted. It was only out for like that day, and then it just disappeared.
That's not real. Y'all made that up.
I was famous on it real fast.
24 hours of fame.
Yeah.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Comics Grind. I am one of your hosts, Nico Rodriguez.
And I'm Ken, aka Comic Ken on YouTube.
And thank you so much for joining us for another weekly comics discussion. First off, before we start, apologies for my nasally voice. Been under the weather this week, so if you see me hacking up a lung here in a second, just turn away, come back, and we'll all still be here. But luckily, we have friends of the show here joining us. We have Mr. Justin Prine, dude. How's it going?
Good. How are y'all doing?
Oh, bringing the guns out.
Yeah, man.
And we have Milton Lawson too. How you doing, Milton?
I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah, that's a good one, Milton. I mean, I think that's why Ken and I we've discussed it on the show before, but that newsletter, that email subscriber is such a huge thing because, social media goes down, all these other avenues go down. If you have an email, I mean, I have two emails, one that's like my art email and then one that's my, for everything else email. That everything else email I've had, I don't even know when I created that. It was so long ago. So like when you have those email addresses, like, you've got your fans for, for a good while. So
yeah.
that's good.
Yeah, I think you're talking about the email list, like the email subscribers and whatnot. And yeah, I was gonna add on to Milton's point about that because an email is when somebody gives you their email, it's more of an investment than a follow on social media or a like. It's like they're giving you access to like their personal place where you can reach out to them. And so if you send an email, they have a much higher likelihood of seeing what you post in the email than what you post on social media. There's times where I posted on Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, YouTube, wherever. And I asked like family members or people that I talk to regularly, and they say they never saw what I posted. But if you have their email, they have a much higher chance of seeing whatever you got going on when you actually do post it, because it's directly connected to a place they go to check on, like maybe they get business emails through their Gmail, or they just get more important things through their email than they do on social media. Social media is like you can take it or leave it, but an email is like it's a magnitude of importance higher than a post on social media. So I don't count likes and subscribes or follows too much on social media. Like those are nice, but really what you're trying to do is move them over to your email list, which is traffic you do own, which is like it can't be taken down if a social media platform dives in quality or goes up in quality. Like it's not affected by that. So that's what all the most like the highest level business books all recommend, is to get people on an email list so that you can keep sending them like messages, marketing, that kind of stuff, and then put that into your products that you have going on.
Yeah. But yeah, I was going to say a little bit more on that, Ken. You were talking, and we're all kind of talking about the newsletter. And Justin, I know you're familiar with Marty Keen or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know if so. Ken, he's a indie comics guy, self publisher. He was kind of brought to light for the most part, right? Justin was because cartoonist kayfabe, they got a copy of his bootleg Spider-Man comic, and
Yeah.
they did a video on it.
How do you spell
And
his name?
then Mahdi, I think, and then last name is Khene, I think.
That's hard.
Yeah. But anyway, but so he kind of got publicized there on the Cartoonist Kayfabe channel with this book, sold out of all his books
Wow.
immediately right after from his website and all. And basically kind of just gathered a very solid following on that. But the reason I bring that up is because on one of the latest episodes of Cartoonist Kayfabe, they were talking about him, and because they saw him at a recent convention, and said that he recently quit his job and is doing comics full time, and
Wow.
a big part of that is because now after all that happened, he has an email subscriber list of everyone, of all these
Wow.
new fans. They signed up for his newsletter, and now it's a thing where he's basically putting, and he's prolific, dude. He is, I mean, you follow him on Instagram, it's almost like he's posting a new comic page of a new comic every day. It almost seems like.
Dang. Share my
So
screen.
he's got like, oh yeah. So he's kind of got like, according to what Cartoonist Kayfabe was saying, he's kind of got this thing where he's putting out a new book every 2 months.
Wow.
And every 2 months, all his email subscribers get an email saying it's out, and then he sells his books. And so it's kind of like this cyclical 2-month thing that he does. So much with so much. Yeah, that's the bootleg Spider-Man there.
Oh.
Yeah.
That can't be allowed.
What's that?
I said that can't be allowed.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Don't tell Marvel.
Oh yeah. The 100,000 people watching this, don't tell Marvel. But
Spider-Man should be a public domain character by now.
Yeah, I know, right?
Isn't Mickey Mouse coming out now?
Oh, is he? If he is, man, I got
recently.
But yeah, so basically that model that we were just talking about, Ken, he's got a model now. He's got his subscribers. Every 2 months is a new book. So those guys get it. It's almost just like a pull box, basically. So
right,
pretty impressively done.
Yeah, and I think how social media is the thing that people are pushing, like whenever they talk about marketing and comics, I think it's going to move on to email at some point. Like people are pushing like YouTube, be on YouTube, make a YouTube channel and all that, and sell your comics out of that. But for some reason, it's like nobody ever pushes having an email list. They'll push a Patreon and a YouTube before they ever even consider doing an email list. Most people say like, no, it's too much. It takes too much time. I can't write that much. I can't write or whatever. But I think that will significantly put you ahead of most people out there in terms of marketing your own comic and just making money, making a living off of it. I know Ed Brubaker does it. Mark Millar, he does it. And what's the guy that makes Brian K. Vaughan with Saga? He does that as well.
Hey, Milton, can you like get to the status of Mark Millar or Brian K. Vaughan or Ed Brubaker already, and like
what the hell?
So we can all benefit from these massive writers.
He's on his way. He's on his way.
I know.
Yeah.
He's on his way. Before we move on to you guys, Christian is asking, how do y'all edit your stories? Do you ask friends or hire an editor? Like, how do you know when an idea needs editing?
That's a really good question.
That's a good question. both of those things are fine. You just have to have, friends that are willing to read your stuff. I know, maybe Milton, you probably, I don't know if you've ever edited for somebody too, but you might have more experience with working with editors. For me, it's mostly friends, family, close ones is kind of how I do it, which isn't the best way because you don't get the best, you don't get the best feedback because sometimes they don't want to hurt your feelings and things, which, it's understandable. Um, but obviously hiring editor is a great way to go, but it's going to cost you some capital, but sometimes you
Yeah.
need it. I know, you brought up Brian K. Vaughan earlier, Ken. Brian K. Vaughan says he never uses editors in his stories,
Wow.
which is interesting because he's one of the biggest writers in the world. So, but yeah, Milton, do you have anything to express on that?
Yeah, sorry, but I'm going to disagree with Nico. Don't ever use friends. Don't trust them. They're going to pop up your ego. They're going to treat you nice.
Yeah.
Share with people who don't have a vested interest in your success. Join a writers group. If you're doing comic script style, some people might have a little bit of an issue with adapting to it, but I mean, it's words on a page. I think that they can tell you the heart of whether what you're saying is working or not. That's the most affordable way to go. And if you can throw $29 a month, I highly recommend the Comics Experience Workshop. It's a workshop with a lot of other writers and artists. You can post your scripts and have them critique your scripts, and then you also critique other people's scripts. It's a fascinating way to learn in a very accelerated time frame. So, and then I guess the last thing, there's a famous Neil Gaiman quote about feedback and editing, and it goes along the lines, I'm going to ruin it, but it's along the lines of like, if multiple people tell you that there's something wrong, quote unquote, with your story, they're almost always right. But when they then try to tell you what the solution is, they're almost always wrong. So take the basic feedback of, hey, you need to adjust it, but trust yourself and adjust it yourself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess just to clarify my thing, for final edits, you probably, you don't want those close individuals doing it, but, because sometimes like when you're, you write a couple pages or something and you want to get like a quick, just, hey, can you scan this thing? I think friends and things can kind of in that regard, because you don't want to have to like, say you write 6 pages, you don't want to like send 6 pages to an editor and say, hey, edit this, and then like, send another 6 or whatever. Because like, the comic making is such a long process. So you might.
And I just remember, I just literally did this today with you.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly.
I sent you 2 pages because there was a quirky thing that I thought might not be coming through. So for that purpose, it definitely works.
For sure. And Andrea says, love and rockets. Love and rockets. Yes, for sure.
I wanted to tackle the editing question.
All right, go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a what is it? Like a little complicated answer on this, but when it comes to editing like my own stories, I can't afford to hire a professional editor for it. So I have a friend that I talk to. His name is Jeremiah, and we'll talk about the story, the overall story, and how the structure should be and whatnot. But we don't really get into the beat by beat or like the script editing. It's just kind of somebody to bounce ideas off of. What I want in terms of editing eventually is to have somebody like actually look at the script. Does it work? Does it work? Does everything fit together thematically and that kind of thing? But right now I'm just relying on my own sense, like my own inner sense, my own experience with stories over the years, my own writing experience. And I look at what I want to, because I'm on the same opinion as Milton. Like I don't trust friends at all. the only reason I rely on friends is because it's free right now. So it's like, okay, I can rely on friends, but eventually I want to be able to pay to have it professionally edited so I can make it as high quality as possible. And right now I'm just going off my basic sense. And then I think about where I want it to be, and I want it to be at that Japanese level of editing where they focus so much on making the work as polished or as um marketable as possible. Like they'll sacrifice everything just to make the work as great as it could be. And I don't want it to get to like that level, but I want that same kind of feeling to come through in the work that I'm making. So I try to put it on myself right now, but it would really be great to have somebody to bounce off of that really has a high level of storytelling acumen and knowledge and understanding so that I can see things that I wouldn't be able to normally see on my own. Like I can see a good bit on my own, but I need that kind of that second pair of eyes that's really highly trained. And I think that's what you have to like pay for. Like you'll eventually have to pay for it if you want it to come through that well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my opinion
Sure.
on that.
When in doubt, hire an editor. There you go.
Yeah.
Good. That's a great question, Christian. Appreciate that. Andrea is saying social media is tough. My favorite thing reading comics is being surprised. How do you showcase your work and find your comic audience niche without spoiling it? Oh, that's a good
I got
question.
plenty of thoughts on that.
Go ahead, Ken.
Oh, now? Okay, well,
Yeah, that's an incredible question. That's almost the whole show worth of topic.
yeah, it really is like something we could like dive deep into. But I'll give like, so what?
Go ahead, Ken. You got it.
Oh, I'll give like the quick kind of cliff notes here. Let's see. Social media is tough. Favorites reading comics is being surprised. How do you showcase your work and find your comic audience niche without spoiling it? And this is something I asked one of my friends, Ngozi Ukazu. She does this comic called Check Please. It's a hockey comic, and she said what you want to do is post your comic on social media as if you're doing fan art for your own comic. Like you want to be the biggest fan of your own comic. You're posting like tidbits about this character here and there. Like you're posting like work in progress stuff on about your comic, but you're not always putting context to what your story is about. You're just giving little bits and pieces here. You're being your own biggest fan on your social media. So it's like you're posting art pieces, you're posting like panels here and there, and people are like it, and it would be like interesting panels where people are wondering like, okay, what's going on here, like what's the context around it, and that kind of drives them over to wherever your comic is posted. This is the strategy, I guess, for web comics, because that's what she did. That's what her comic was until she like published it. But that's what I do as well with my comic. I'll post like panels and tidbits here and there about my character, and or like the characters in the book. And that's why I see a lot of the other guys that are like big on social media, they'll do the same thing, because nobody really knows about your book. Like they don't know what's going on inside. They can only really tell like kind of from the cover. But if you communicate with people who like the same thing that your book is about, and keep posting about your work, like that, you kind of build that network and get inside of that niche where people already sort of like what you're trying to create. Then you start communicating more with that group of people, that community, find where they're hanging out, and when the time is right, you just present your work before them, and then they'll be like, oh, what's this about? And you keep putting that fan art type stuff about your own comic out, and then people will start to get into it that way. Little by little, they start to get into it.
Yeah. I certainly agree with that. I do that as well. And I know, we were talking about Daniel Warren Johnson a little earlier, but whenever he was doing Space Mullet, which was his first web comic that he was doing, he would post one panel a day, his favorite panel, the one that looked the best, the one that he got the right composition, the right expression, the right action shot. The best panel that he drew that day is the one that he used for his advertising post. So,
Oh, nice.
That's kind of a pretty cool thing that I picked up from one of his interviews. Excuse me, 1 second. Sorry, had
Stop being
to
sick.
cough. But yeah, so like that's definitely one thing to do. I mean, and that's Andrea, that's a reason why I am posting Brew Monsters on my Substack. It's because I could post those pages incomplete on my Instagram, but I did a lot of work on those things. So I want to have some kind of reciprocation from that, which is just having somebody sign up with their email. And that's how you get those full pages. And then I'll post snippets on the social media. So that's kind of like the avenue that I've chose. But yeah, it's a constant evolving question, because sometimes your best stuff is a big spoiler. Maybe it, you said that you're working on, you have your first issue done right now. maybe you spoil it. I don't know. Just because it's that first issue to kind of get people in, but yeah, good question. Let's see.
And I'll say this about spoilers is like, I don't think if you're early on in the story, people don't really care as much about spoilers, because it's still so early in the process of it. And if you post stuff without context, if you're really that worried about spoiling your story and all that kind of stuff, you just post things around it, just contextless pieces of art around the high points of your story, and then people will naturally wonder, hey, what led up to this? What's the context around it? And that'll kind of bring in more readers, because the whole point of social media is to bring in more eyes to your work. And it's not always the conversation scenes that'll bring people in. And I wouldn't really worry so much about spoiling your comic as much as drawing people in.
Yeah. Yeah, especially if it's a number one. I don't remember who said it, but it was like they spoil the entire first issue in the log line, or like in
Oh,
the,
really?
in the quick summary, because it's the first issue. There's going to be 12 more or whatever. So
Right.
got Gabe.
That's Gabe. I know Gabe.
Gabe. All right.
Yeah. What's up, man?
What's up, dude? Thanks for joining. I've been drawing comics since I was a kid, but I'm focusing more on animation right now. Do you think juggling careers as a comic book artist and an animator would be difficult? Ooh. What you guys got on that one? I don't animate, or at least I don't try to do it professionally at this point. What you got?
Sounds difficult, but just do it, man. Just keep going. Juggle.
No. Don't do it. No, hell no.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ken. You got anything?
Well, yeah, my thought on that is like, me, I work as a dishwasher, so I don't have to think. Like it takes no mental energy for me to do, and it's actually kind of fun. So that when I come back home and start working on comics, I'm like freshly prepared to like, hey, I can just draw and like go straight into it. But having two careers where I have to put my creativity out there, I couldn't manage it. There's no way I could be an animator and a comic book artist, unless one was related to the other. Like they both rely on drawing, but if I was doing an animation of my own comic, that's the only way I can see myself doing both. But if you're becoming an animator as a mandatory thing, like that's your day job, that's what you do, it's going to be hard to like transition into doing comics and trying to make a career in comics after you get back from your day job as an animator. But I've seen people on YouTube kind of like, I've seen people on YouTube be able to juggle that. they'll talk about how they do storyboarding at a company or whatever, and then they still have time to do their like maybe a little sketchbook comics here and there on the side. And I'm not sure how they manage it. They found a way to make that work, but for me personally, I can't make both those two things work at the same time. So there's a few people that I can link that make it work.
Yeah, I mean the only thing I have on that is I've only kind of seen people do one or the other successfully. At least I think I haven't really seen an animator consistently working full-time in animation and then having a successful comic book career at the same time. I usually see it like comic book artist first, moves on to animation because it pays more, or animator gets tired of animation, jumps to comics. I don't, especially if you're not professional in either one of those and you don't have like a creatively a creative driven daytime career, man, doing both of those at the same time, I don't know how you could handle that.
Yeah,
the thing I like about it though, at least they're complementary skills.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh,
sorry,
yeah.
Gabe, choose one next. Choose one, Gabe, next.
I was about to say, one is always going to be subordinate to the other. So like you'll always have one in the primary seat, and then you'll be doing the other on the side. So me, I'm trying to make a career out of comics. If I wanted to do like little animations, it would be on the side. But if you're trying to make a career in animation, if you wanted to do little comics, it would have to be on the side. It couldn't be your main thing unless you're trying to make it your main thing. But that would be a slower process built up over time before you can transition fully into full-time comics. Whereas how Nico was describing it is like most people do it one after the other. So like a lot of people will get into animation first, and then they'll take all those skills and storyboarding and art skills into comics and then make great comics. And some people will start off in comics and then eventually work their way into a more stable like animation job with a company and all that. So
there's a lot more money in animation.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's usually like one after the other.
You had to focus on one.
Yeah. One after the other, or one is more of a hobby rather than the main job.
Come on, man. Just be a pretentious cartoonist and just like make comics in a basement every day. Yeah, and he says that he's thinking of doing animation as his main career and doing smaller comics on the side. Animation is the chief focus for sure. There you go, man.
Yeah, and he's been wanting to get into Nickelodeon and all that for a long time. So I know he's gonna make it. And definitely I see animation as his like as his calling, pretty much.
For sure. Yeah, man. Good stuff.
I get your phone. I mean,
I'm gonna be
Justin, bring your
right
own.
out of the box.
Get your own, Justin.
There you go. Actually, Justin, just pass it up. Just pass it up to Nico. Just
I literally don't have anything.
pass it through the screen.
Nico, hurry.
Nico, just reach down. Just
take
reach
it out.
down.
I have HDS. We'll do that. Because
Nico, reach down.
Reach down. Here.
Justin's passing it up. Just reach down. There you go.
Got it.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. All my con stuff is downstairs. So.
All right, cool. Now we got like a group shot. I'm gonna just use this for the thumbnail and all that.
Nice. But thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.
Peace.